When you think of the Hollywood blacklist, you probably think of those famous stories, right? The Hollywood 10, careers just completely ruined overnight. But what if that was just scratching the surface? A really groundbreaking new study has used decades of data to uncover the full story, and it shows this incredible ripple effect that went way beyond the people who were targeted and ultimately reshaped American society itself. That warning, right there, from one of America's founding fathers, it gets at this really old fear in democracies, the rise of a demagogue. And that fear, it became terrifyingly real during the McCarthy era, a time when anti-communist paranoia was basically weaponized to build a mass following and just shatter democratic norms. So, for the first time, we can actually move past the stories and dig into the hard data to answer some huge questions. Who was really being targeted? What actually happened to their careers? And, maybe the most important question of all, did this witch hunt's influence actually spill out of Hollywood and change the entire country? Okay, so to really get what's going on, you gotta picture the scene. It's the late 1940s and 50s. The Cold War is heating up, and the Second Red Scare has its grip on the entire nation. And in this climate of fear and, frankly, paranoia, all eyes turn to this supposed threat from within, American communists. And the main weapon in this crusade, at least in the entertainment world, was Huck. This congressional committee launched this massive, very high-profile investigation into Hollywood, creating this suffocating climate of fear and pressuring people to name names. This wasn't some political sideshow. This was the engine driving the whole blacklist. So who exactly was in the crosshairs here? Was this just some random, chaotic witch hunt? Or was there a method to the madness? Well, it turns out the accusations were anything but random, not even close. The study analyzed the traits of hundreds of accused people and compared them to their colleagues who were never named. And a really clear, systematic pattern just pops right out of the data. And here's who they were going after. The people targeted weren't minor players, not at all. They were more successful, more experienced, and way more likely to have gotten an Academy Award nomination. They were also more likely to have worked on progressive films, and, here's the kicker, to have publicly voiced opinions that went against the grain. In fact, get this. The data shows that just participating in activities that opposed HUAC, like, say, signing an ad on the paper denouncing the committee, made a person between 27 and 32 percentage points more likely to get accused later on. This is pretty much proof positive that it was a targeted campaign to silence influential and dissenting voices. Okay, but being accused didn't have any formal legal consequences, right? So did it actually matter for someone's career? Well, the study measured this by tracking the number of film and TV credits people got year after year. The impact was just devastating. On average, an accused actor appeared in one less film or TV show per year after being named. And this wasn't just a blip. This professional hit was severe, and it lasted for nearly a decade, only really fading away in the late 1950s. For some people, like women and those who refused to cooperate, the effects lasted even longer. This is such a critical question. Did their careers tank because audiences were refusing to watch so-called communists? Or was something else going on behind the scenes? The researchers dug in to find the real enforcers of the blacklist. So the research tested two main theories. The first is customer discrimination, the idea that regular folks just actively avoided these films. The second is employer discrimination, where the studios and sponsors themselves were the ones firing people to avoid any potential drama. And it turns out the audience wasn't driving this at all. The study looked at weekly box office data and found no drop in revenue for films that featured accused stars. It was the employers, the studios, the sponsors, who were terrified of controversy. As one sponsor perfectly put it, why buy yourself a headache? They just decided to drop anyone with any kind of a cloud whatsoever. But the story doesn't end with the careers of the accused. The research uncovers something much wider and, honestly, way more insidious. A chilling effect that spread fear and self-censorship through the entire industry. The chilling effect. It's what happens when people who aren't being targeted start changing their behavior out of fear. Seeing what was happening to their blacklisted colleagues, other filmmakers started looking over their own shoulders, worried that they could be next. So you have writers and directors who were never accused, but maybe they had a history of working on more progressive stuff. Well, they began to self-censor. They started steering clear of themes like class struggle or racial inequality, anything that might attract the wrong kind of attention. They started playing it safe. And this self-censorship, it wasn't just in their heads, it literally changed the entire output of Hollywood. The data shows a clear, measurable drop in the number of progressive films being made as the anti-communist crusade hit its peak. Hollywood as a whole was becoming more conservative. And this chilling effect, this is what leads us to the study's most shocking conclusion. This wasn't just about what was happening inside the movie business. The change in the movies people were watching seems to have created a political ripple effect across the entire country. I know, it sounds like a huge leap, right? But the study investigated this exact question. Could a shift towards more conservative movies actually make society itself more conservative? First, you have to wrap your head around the sheer scale of Hollywood's influence back then. We're talking up to 80 million Americans, a massive chunk of the population, going to the movies every single week. It was the dominant form of mass media, period. So to measure this, researchers did something incredible. They digitized 1940 data on movie theater capacity for every single county in the US, and then they compared it to voting patterns. And they found a direct correlation. During the blacklist years, counties that had more movie theater seats per person saw a bigger shift towards the Republican Party in presidential elections. The conclusion was pretty stark. More exposure to the now more conservative content coming out of Hollywood was associated with a more conservative electorate. By changing the movies, the witch hunt helped change America's politics. So let's just put this whole chain reaction together. It starts with the systematic targeting of influential, progressive voices. That leads to their careers being destroyed, not by audiences, but by scared studios. That fear then creates a chilling effect, causing the entire industry to self-censor and make more conservative movies. And finally, that shift in media content was followed by a measurable political shift across the whole country. This data-driven look into the past leaves us with a critical question for the present. The McCarthy-era blacklist wasn't just a tragedy for a few hundred artists. It was a stunning demonstration of how demagoguery can use fear to manipulate mass media and shape a nation's political path. It really makes you wonder, in our own, way more complex media world today, what are the unseen ripples being created right now?